We were actually in the Commonwealth District, so we would play Woodbridge, Garfield, all of those sorts of teams. And in fact, one of my little claims to fame is I hit the game-winning home run to beat Garfield for the first time in the history of Stafford High School. So that was kind of a high point when we were there. But we were playing against guys from that area who would be recruited by, say, UVA and places like that. And we weren't really on the map, but they were. So it was kind of a big deal for us to go up and beat them. But we'd also play teams like Stonewall Jackson out in Front Royal. So when we would go there, that's a 2-hour bus ride. And it's changed quite a bit. I mean, when my kids play now, there are 5 high schools in Stafford. And back when we were there were only 2. In fact, I call it 1.5 because it was 2 years of, 2 schools. I think it's made me pretty well-rounded because we kind of started out having to be creative to create our own unique talents and interests, creating games. We weren't dealing with Game Boys and those sorts of things. And then to have the influx of people that we've had to become a lot better at just being good citizens, meeting new people, learning new things, and being very adaptable. And I think that's kind of neat. In fact, I had it told to me one time by it was a bank president and CEO. He said, in this area, what you really need to be able to do is to be able to speak NASCAR and Wall Street fluently and interchangeably. And I think that's what we do here. We're pretty good at that. And I think that combined with the kind of history that we have, I mean, it really made a big impression on me when I was a child because I was confirmed in the Aquia Episcopal Church. And when I saw that it was established prior to the country being established, that gives you a little point of pride to say, hey, I've got a certain standard I'm going to meet. And then to have, the ultimate forefather, George Washington, grow up here, you kind of, not many people can say, yeah, I grew up in the same place where George Washington grew up. So I think that really had a strong influence on a lot of us. And the guys that really have kind of stayed in the area and are still attached to the area, I think we all take a certain pride in that. Meeting my wife was kind of that was the main moment. But there's so many different things.
You can talk about all of them if you want.
Well, I mean, there's remembering when my grandfather would bring different Boy Scout troops in, and they would have mini jamborees and camporees and those sorts of things. Wanting to play baseball and being involved with the fields, those are big deals in my mind. Graduating from high school, coming back to high school. And I mean, I've been entrusted with some of the funds for some of the major projects in this area that really, I mean, it's a point of pride with me to be able to say, yes, I helped build that because of the way that we were able to handle things, which is nice. So those are kind of the big events. Raising my family here, I think is great. My parents literally live 1.5 miles from us. Individual times and moments. You take certain things that kind of stay with you. Like the first time that I walked through the cemetery at Aquia Episcopal Church at dusk, you kind of felt like there were ghosts around. You almost felt like you were going to bump into somebody. So those kinds of things stand out. But you also remember when 610 only had 2 lanes, and now it's got, 8? And you remember where things used to be, when you can talk to somebody who's been here as long as you have, and you could say, well, remember where that store was? Well, you turn left at that, but it's not there anymore. But we kind of knew where it was. So those are big things, you know. It's, I mean, there are a lot of teachers, I think, that have been big influences. There have been a lot of individuals and coaches and those sorts of things that make a big impact on you. And you remember kind of the little things. And I believe that the little things that you make decisions on and do and implement in your life actually make you who you are versus the big things. The big things are the easier things. But if you could take the smaller things and build on them, I think that's really important. And I remember like going to the basketball camps. There was only one high school, so there was only one coach who kind of ran everything. And that gentleman recently passed away. His name was Woody Shahan. And he would have a certain mindset that we could all kind of take. And it's like, you got to be the best you can be at all times. And then you could get a reward. Like, he used to have this part of the camp where you'd do the really hard part, and then he'd go, okay, we're going to bring everybody up here, and you shoot a free throw for a free Coca-Cola. And I'll never forget that, because it's a lot of pressure. And if you make that and you're 7 or 8 years old, that's a big deal. So you remember those sorts of things. But, you know, Drew Middle School was a big time, because that was the first time I met my wife, and we actually went to a dance then. And then we met again in high school when we actually became kind of high school sweethearts. So you remember those sorts of things. Then you remember like the home run I was telling you about against Garfield. And then we created a rivalry with North Stafford, because we all knew each other, so we were going to try to play hard. And, you know, you remember your achievements in some of those games, which is kind of neat. And I don't know, the graduations, coming back to town and seeing how things changed. Because when I went to school down in North Carolina. So you'd be gone for 3 or 4 months at a time. You come back and it's like, wow, where did that get built? And that was kind of different. When I saw that, I wasn't sure I was going to come back and stay here. But then I didn't want to be anywhere else. It's like when you're on an airplane and you get over home, you can almost feel it. You can see it and you can feel it, because I used to travel quite a bit as well. So we stayed here and raised a family, started a business, been very successful. We're very fortunate. And the beauty of the growth is that it has brought wealth to our area as well. The downside to the growth is there's so many people that it becomes congested, and so you have to kind of weigh the two.